All right. What is up, Jen? Hey, I just wanted to walk you through my approach when I am selling a prospect. I guess before we do anything else, one, I didn't want to write a script. I thought that writing a script would kind of leave out the actual principles that we're trying to accomplish. And if we just talk about the benchmarks, the goals, the objectives, the principles, the foundations of what we're actually doing, then stringing together a script is easy. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you about the psychology and the stuff that I do when I'm trying to sell a prospect, my process from beginning to end. And so I think this is my first attempt. This is not like a course that I've ever taught, but I sat down and I said, well, okay, if I was going to map out block by block, piece by piece, what I do, what am I actually doing? So this is my attempt to help teach kind of the way I do it. Now, I don't expect you to do everything that I do. I think that you have all the skills that you need to right now based on what you've been doing already. You're already selling. This is just maybe focusing on the different parts of the cycle. So let me start with, I call it selling 101. At the end of the day, there's only one thing there's two things that are happening. One, we're identifying the need of a person. They're on the call. They're signing up for a reason. They don't just say, hey, let's get on, as many demos as possible. Most of the time when they sign on, they're interested, they're curious, they want to know how we can help. However, most sales calls fail because they jump into a solution. Okay, they jump into a pitch. They start selling before they ever identify what the need is. Okay, and I can't remember who wrote the book, but I remember a long time ago I was reading some book. Actually, I've got it on my phone. I can maybe tell you here in a second. And the guy was basically saying the easiest way to think about sales is talk to a person until you clearly understand their problem and their need, and then sell that to them. Sell the thing that they said they wanted, sell that to them. All right. So that is when in terms of what we're doing, we're just identifying a need. That's number one. And then number two is transfer your belief. All right. If you identify that need and you're like, oh, I mean, we're custom made to solve this problem. All you have to do is just transfer the belief from you to them. That's all we're doing. So this is the framework that I'm going through, and I'll walk you through each step. But just from a 10,000 foot view here is these 5 steps. Okay. Now I'll actually start down here. I think that in selling, there's language that has almost like a character, like it behaves in a certain way. And when you're in the first 3 phases, I almost feel like you're kind of, in a way, you're pushing your way through the steps. You're pushing your way through the conversation, meaning you're the person behind, kind of just nudging that person forward. And then at some point in time, it actually pivots. And you want the cadence and the direction of that call, instead of being, hey, I'm pushing you to a close, I want to pull you through a close. And that's kind of how I think about it. I actually got that from a book called Predictable Revenue. The guy who wrote the Salesforce's, or wrote a book, he was actually in charge of Salesforce's like first sales and marketing strategy. Anyway, so that is kind of overall what I'm trying to do. If I break these down piece by piece, okay, I'm going trust, get clear on the problem, remove their objections, increase their desire, solve the problem, and then certainty, and make them make a choice. Okay. So block by block we'll go. Now, if you wanted to, I have a transition in between each, because you have to identify at which point in time it's time to move on. Okay. So we'll go through each of these real fast, but you'll notice every time I have a blue block, like there is a transition. And if you listen to me do this, I'll do the same thing many times. I just know, okay, well, this person's a fit. I need to get onto the pitch. Or, okay, this person's, had a bad experience. I need to get onto the story, whatever it is. All right. So let me just, I'll start here. So the first thing is obviously just be relatable. I mean, at the end of the day, people buy from those they know, like, and trust. Okay. And so you want to be personable. You want to, you know, speak about them. I remember that book, how to win friends and influence people. And it's funny because I remember at the end of reading that book, I was like, oh, wait. So just help people talk about themselves and they will like you. It's like the whole point of that book, right? So all we're doing is we're saying, hey, let's, you know, we're trying to clear the air. I am, I guess, elephant in the room. I'm a salesperson, but I'm also a person. So build a relationship of trust there. Okay. So that's number one. Now, when I get to the end, and that usually takes me, sometimes I'm actually kind of quick to, I'm not as deliberate about this as I should be, but if I were to do it right, it'd take 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. So my transition. All right, Sam, I'm acting like my name is Sam and I'm selling to another guy named Sam, I guess. All right, Sam, I'm excited to talk to you today. And I'm sure you're curious about what Patient Stream can do for your practice. And because I know that no two practices are the same, I'd love to first learn about your practice, ask you a few questions, and see if we can help. Okay. If I can get a clear picture on what your practice is looking to do, then I'll walk you through Patient Stream and show you how we can help you from there. Now, I say this every single time. I don't say that exact script, but I say something to the effect of, okay, Sally, whatever. Here's how I like to do these demo calls. I would love to first hear about your practice, what your goals are, what brought you to the call today. Okay. As soon as I can get a clear picture on that, then I'll pivot over, tell you what Patient Stream's all about, and we'll go from there. Okay. So I do that every time. All right. Initial discovery and qualify. I say initial discovery because the discovery process, it seems to kind of like rear its ugly head throughout the process, meaning you ask a question later on, you learn more stuff and you got to adapt a little bit. But we want to, obviously we want to identify and discover a clear objective. Like you can't just tell me, I want to grow my practice. You're on here because you saw a piece of marketing, you saw an email, you saw this, you saw that. And while I can talk to you about so many different things that Patient Stream can do, we're going to be on the phone for hours, right? You came on for one thing. Let's talk about that. So that's number one. And then number two is qualify. Now, qualify, this is, if we can't help them, then why stay on the phone? All right. So for example, I spoke with somebody that does family counseling a while ago, and I'm interested in that space, but I'm like, we don't do that. So can't help you. I'm hesitant at the moment to do that for med spas only because we have some stuff, but it's not, I don't feel as confident in it. And I'm not going to sell something I don't feel very confident in. All right. So just in terms of qualifying people, at the end of the day, we want people who are going to be what I call OKGs, our kind of gals, our kind of guys. All right. We want good people, the kind of people we like to work with. It doesn't mean we can't deal with people, even if they're a little off in terms of maybe their personality or whatever it is, but we want good people. We're going to grow better and have a better experience with good people. Okay. Let me go through the discovery. Okay. The person's on the call for a reason. We have to get very clear on what result they want. All right. We also need to know, I need to change that. We also need to know any fixed ideas they have because they're going to come up as objections later and kill the sale. Absolutely. That's true. Okay. And lastly, we cannot help everyone. So we need to see if they have the stuff. And that's the other thing is when I talk with people who are straight chiropractors, a lot of times I'll pass. And I'll pass because what the audience believes is what is true. Okay. Meaning if you live in a town, there's 100,000 people there, you're not going to change those opinions about anything. Okay. They have a collective opinion, and the collective opinion about chiropractors is it costs $55 for an adjustment. All right. So to me, if they just offer chiropractic and nothing niche, they're not going to be a great fit for us. They're good people, but not a fit for us. All right. So that's what we're doing. Initial discovery and qualify. Now this does take, and the other thing I want to do here is I want to gather when I said, so we need to see if they have the ingredients needed to fulfill, I want to know, do they have laser? Do they have red light? Do they have decompression? Do they have shockwave? Like what do they have? Okay. And you might get some of that by maybe looking at a website, but you can also talk to them. I want to know what stuff they have, because also if they don't have any modalities or anything like that, it's like, well, so you want us to sell stem cell services. That's going to be hard if you don't have something like a monkey fist, if you don't have some type of thing we can offer for them to get in. All right. So I want to make a mental inventory of the things that they have. All right. I'm just getting a good, clear picture for what the practice is and then what we can do with the assets that we have in PatientStream. All right. So transition. Yeah. Transition. The big thing here is just to restate what they're doing. And I said restate their objection. It shouldn't be objection. Restate their objective. That's what I meant to say. Restate their objective. Okay. So let me make sure I've got a clear picture on what you need and what you're looking for. And I would just like regurgitate it. So you're wanting to add more neuropathy patients. Okay. You added neuropathy services recently. You're doing well. You want to add more cash-based services, but nothing's quite working. So you're looking to get 5 to 10 patients a month for something, whatever it is. Okay. All right. Awesome. I should have named it somebody else because now this is very confusing. Awesome, Mike. Well, based on what you've told me, I think we can definitely help you. So what I'd like to do is give you a quick rundown of what PatientStream actually does, and then I'll show you how we can help you get the 10 new neuropathy patients. And we'll even cover the specifics on how other clinics like yours are doing the same thing. Does that sound good? Okay. So that's very similar to what I do. All right. Custom pitch. Now, custom pitch here is you should not, there's parts of the pitch that will be the same every time, right? Like, so something I say every single time. For example, a lot of people think that PatientStream is an agency. We are not an agency. We're a piece of software that replaces agencies, and we do a much better job, create better outcomes and better results because our software doesn't go to sleep. Our software doesn't ask for a raise, and our software doesn't make spelling mistakes either. So I'll say that kind of thing. Like that's a standard part of my pitch because I want them to decipher between our big distinctions. Okay. So that's number one. But the actual pitch, when I start telling people like why they want this, how this is going to fit to them, I'm thinking about different case studies and different people that are similar to them, or I think that they will glob onto in terms of a story. So for example, if somebody comes in and they're like, yeah, we were getting a bunch of like leads, but just nothing was working, this, that, and the other. And like, I don't know. I don't think Facebook has worked, something like that. Immediately, I know I'm telling Ray Peavy's story. Okay. And I'll give you an example. I had somebody come in with that exact same story. Like, I just don't think that lead quality, this, that, and the other. And when people say lead quality, I can say one of the things that's important to understand, and now I'm jumping into the pitch, is there are things you can do in terms of improving your lead quality. But there's also a lot of things that people get wrong. And let me share real quick one of those really common things. We have a doctor named Dr. Ray Peavy came into our program, and he heard about us through another user. He was having a struggle in his practice because the pandemic hit in California, of all places, and it cut his practice by more than half. Now, Dr. Peavy came on, started using PatientStream, and he was able to double his practice in 2.5 months. But it was the month and a half prior to that 2.5 month run that almost broke him. And here's what I mean. For 6 weeks before he started to have a run on the bank and really do very well, it was the same thing that happened before. Meaning they'd get leads, nobody would show up, no conversions, just not good. Another bad experience. But this time was different because Dr. Peavy had lost more than half of his practice due to things he could not control. He had no choice. He had to make it work. Somehow he had to make it work. And so one day he was walking by his front desk and he heard the gal on the phone. And he said, is that a Facebook lead? Can I talk to them? He got on a 3 to 5 minute consult on the phone. The person showed up the next day and they converted into care. And he thought, what in the world just happened? Why was that so easy? And so for the next 2.5 months, he did that over and over and over again. And he doubled his practice and he added $50,000 of cash back in his practice. So here's what's really important about this. The ads had zero change in that process. We didn't change anything. Nothing at all changed. What changed was the way that Dr. Peavy handled the call and then the tone and certainty of the people who were getting the help. They felt finally like they were getting the help they need. So I understand lead quality is a big thing. I understand that. But we have over 100 clinics that use this same process. And when they first started with us, many of them thought the same thing until we showed them the right process to nurture and qualify and close leads. Boom, you're done with the pitch, you move on. All right. All right, there's a couple of basics included. I'm reading now on the slide here. There's a couple of basics included in every pitch, like, hey, we're not an agency. And one of the things I also like to do there is to say, agencies are expensive. A lot of times just to turn your ads on, they'll charge you $1,500 to $2,000, and then you have to be the one who calls them when the performance dips, right? So I'll say stuff like that. Let's see here. But you'll likely pitch people slightly different based on what they know and based on their fixed ideas. You should clearly state what's different about PatientStream, but once they have an idea, it's more effective to share a story about a clinic just like Dr. Peavy, like theirs, and how they found success. The right story will naturally solve objections and create desire. What I mean by that is a lot of times, if you tell a story and you're like, oh, he did a consult, he did this, he did that, you're resolving concerns by inferring the solution. Okay, we like it when people kind of resolve their own objections without having to do too much work there. Also, if you call out objections you discovered in initial discovery, they are much easier to deal with at this earlier on the stage. So what I'm saying is, if you identify in that initial discovery that they think that lead quality is crap, or maybe they think that, people don't convert to care, or Facebook ads don't, like, whatever it is, I'm making a mental note so I can get rid of those fixed ideas in this stage. All right. I think you're getting it here. The whole point, remove objections, increase desire. All right, here's the transition. So in a minute, I'd like to share the strategy I think would work for your practice. But before we go any further, I'd like to take a minute and see if you have any questions about what I just shared. A lot of times when people hear what PatientStream is all about, I just want to let it sink in. Let them know, yes, we are not an agency. Yes, you can. And the objection that always comes up here is, wait, it can't, I don't, so I'm going to have to be technical now. So I commonly will say, and don't worry, I didn't just say this was easy. This is actually so easy. There's a video on my YouTube channel showing how my daughter, who's 10 years old, learned how to do it in less than 30 seconds. Okay. So anyone can do this. We have 100 doctors on the program and they're doing it. Trust me, you're just as smart, if not smarter than any one of them. Right. So I make sure that I'm trying to check off some of those boxes as we go. All right. The plan on this stage, you remember we got a clear objective of what they want to do. On this stage, we want to now start actually working with them to solve it. And the way I think about this is, imagine that we went through this entire process. We did the pitch and they're like, sign me up, like right here without even doing anything. There's, okay, sign me up. The next thing you would do is you would onboard them. And imagine they were like a DFY customer. You would onboard them and you would create the plan. Well, if we do that at this stage, if we assemble the plan, if we behave like we're an advisor, instead of going through a sales pitch and trying to close them, close, like that kind of stuff, we're actually building a plan to, solve the problem, to create like a clear pathway to do the thing. I found that by doing that, you can just ask for the sale and it's like super easy. So that's how I like to think about it. You're going to eventually come up with some kind of plan for them anyway. Why not just do that now and then ask them, do you like the plan? You psyched about it? Let's not jump ahead. All right, the plan. The planning stage can happen in a lot of ways. That's right. I mean, what I mean by that is you can actually like send them a written plan, or you can just, talk about, oh, well, yeah, and like visualize it, whatever. You can create an actual plan. You can share what others are doing and walk the prospect through what they're doing. You'll want to think of this more from the prospect. You want to see yourself more as an advisor to the prospect, okay? Which means you should use a line of questioning to create plans. So if you're the person who's just like, if you're just talking to them, then they're not going to feel like it's their plan. All right. And an example of this, if I identify the clear need is neuropathy, I'd say, okay, cool. So one of the things that we see working really well is a thermography neuropathy offer. And my question to you is, one, do you have a thermography camera? If you don't, would you be willing to get one? They're $300. Okay. Because here's what you're going to do. Instead of coming in and offering things that cost a lot of money, you pay one time and then you can just have that camera forever. Right. So can you see how that will work? Yeah. And like, and then you might even say, have you ever wondered, like, imagine you had done this with other neuropathy patients. I had one guy that several years ago, when I showed him this offer, he was like, this is genius. Like when people see that image, they're like sold. They're like, oh yeah, okay, I have a problem. Yeah, let's go. Right. So you might even say, like, at the line of questioning, what do you think is going to happen when you show a person a picture, an image, a thermographic image of their foot, and how that differs from, a normal foot, for example? They're going to say, oh, it's going to be different. And that right there, that's what we need. Don't you agree we need that? Right. Okay, great. So we're going to get those leads. Now the next thing, and just a line of questioning. Okay. And get them like visually invested in what we're doing here. All right. Also, if you call out objections you discovered in initial discovery, they are much easier to deal with at this stage and then later on. Yeah. I mean, once again, this is the same thing. I must have just copied and pasted it over. Did I? Oh, well, it's funny because as I'm looking at this right now, this planning session is an extension of the pitch. Like they're almost one and the same, meaning that pitch, I picked a story that was specific for that person. And then as I'm planning, I'm almost deconstructing Dr. Peavy's plan, like what he did. This is the offer he did. This is how, like, you know what I mean? And then I'm, helping them walk through it and understand the different parts and components. And then I'm saying, hey, this is why your lead quality was crap. Hey, this is how you're going to get more people to show up. Hey, this is what you need to do to get, if you want to get 10 people, you're going to need to spend this much. Hey, this is math. You know what I mean? And I'm just kind of like, I'm taking all of the points of confusion that they had previously, and I'm shining a light on them, and I'm showing them that this is the solution. All right, transition. When we started this call, we talked about what you're looking to do in your practice. We got a good idea. And just to summarize, I wanted to make sure you're looking to add 10 to 15 neuropathy patients in your practice. You've got a growing practice, and previous marketing efforts have just given you a whole bunch of leads, no real results. And so that makes you a little bit hesitant, but you're looking for something and you're willing to try something. Is that right? Great. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had a plan like we just walked through? Have you ever had a plan like we just did? And have you ever understood it from start to finish the way you understand this now? No, I haven't. Okay, great. And then at that point, it's time to transition. Okay. The transition from the plan is to say, hey, let me ask you this. Have you ever had a plan like this that you understood from start to finish? No. Okay. If we've gone through everything, it's time to say, listen, I do a lot of calls like these, and I find that people fall into one of two categories. All right. Here's the choice. Category number one, okay, Sam, it sounds good, but our timing, whatever time of year it is, our finances, whatever it is, we're just not ready yet. So that's number one. Or category number two, Sam, I've got a clear picture on what we're doing and a good feeling about moving forward. I think this is for me. Okay. Which category are you? Category one or category two? You're ready to go. And I just make it very binary. Okay. So the decision phase is actually the most simple. It really is. If you've resolved the prospect's concern before asking for a decision, if not, you have to go back and resolve any concerns and then ask them to decide again. This is why it's really important to spend enough time up front to identify those things, right? So, and there's a couple of honorable mentions that I don't know if I got them all, but we'll get to that in a second. One of them is early in the conversation, establish like their time frame. Like, how urgent is this? Are you just kind of kicking the tires? Are you figuring stuff? Are you trying to figure things? What's going on? Or are you ready to, assuming this is a perfect fit for you, that you see the real how it works and it's really awesome, you're ready to move forward today. I do like to establish some kind of timing thing. All right, let's see here. The goal of the service, and again, this is just a reiteration of Selling 101, right? The goal of our service is to help people. We help them by helping them make a decision on something that we know will help. We know that, okay? So if somebody's a good fit, and you'll find the ones, you will feel the ones that are a good fit, and you'll also feel the ones who are not a great fit. And what I do when they're not a good fit, I say, listen, I'll be honest with you. We have some things that I feel like could help you. However, because you don't have any shockwave, because you don't have like whatever, I'm not sure that we're a great fit yet. There's no problem in saying that. It's better to do that. It's better to maintain our integrity than to try and just make a sale. Okay. So if you feel good about those people, if you feel like they're a good fit, and you will do this, but just make sure they feel how strongly you believe in what we do, which I know I'm preaching to the choir. So anyway, honorable mentions. Let's see here. Early on, so we talked about that. Price marinade. So when I say price marinade, is early on. So right around discovery and qualify. No, right around pitch. I like to throw out a price point, a high price point, so they are anchored to a high dollar amount. So when we tell them what ours costs, they're like, oh, that's cheap, right? And in the pitch, one of the things I commonly say is agencies, I say we're not an agency. We're a software. Agencies cost a lot. They have to hire people. Those people, all that kind of stuff. We're a software. We don't make mistakes in spelling. Our software doesn't ask for a raise, this, that, and the other. And unlike, and so I'll price those. I'll say agencies are expensive. I mean, you'll pay $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 retainers per month just for the service, not including your ad spend, right? So price marinade, I mentioned that early in the process, so they know that agencies are more expensive than us. Resolve concerns with stories. And never try and tell somebody the solution. I try and help them do it through visuals, whether it's Ray Peavy's story, whether it's an analogy. I'm trying to think right now what like sometimes when people have I don't like doing offers, right? I'll say, okay, no, I understand that. And honestly, that to me is if they have that particular objection, I will tell them, I said, look, before we move any further, I just want to share part of the strategy. Okay. And I'm actually kind of like in character now. I'm telling you what I say. So I'll say, listen, I understand a lot of people don't like to do discounts or anything like that. I get it. But before before we move forward, I want to just explain a strategy that we use. All right. And the strategy is all about if you could go out and get a ton of neuropathy patients right now today, you wouldn't be on the phone call with me right now. Okay. You're looking for a way to prospect and fill your calendar with new patients all the time. Now, the question then becomes, how do you do that? How do you get people who are qualified for your services? How do you get enough of them to be lining up at the door and have a full pipeline? Do you just tell them, you just run an ad and say, hey, we help people with neuropathy and people are going to come in? No, that's not how it works. If that's how simple it was, and every marketing person would be, a millionaire. There has to be a strategy. There has to be a thing that sells a thing. And that's how we like to say it a lot, is what is the thing that's going to sell a thing? And I'll give you an example. If you've ever looked at these massive ship tankers, these cruise lines, and you've seen the size of the rope that anchors that huge tanker to a pier, how do you suppose they get that massive rope from the boat down to the cleat on the pier? How do you think they do that? Can you visualize like 10 men going and trying to, toss that rope over the side and it working at all? No. What they do is they have a thin cord attached to the end, and they call that a long line, attached to the end of the long line with a ball. And that ball gets thrown from one surface of the boat down to the pier. They pull it in. That easy ball, that easy throw, that small, easy thing made it easy for them to wrap it around and fasten that massive boat to the pier. So you're talking about, we need a small thing that does a big second order consequence, right? I'm butchering it right now because I'm not in a pitch, but I'll identify things and say that, so this is the same way that your services work. If you want to sell a $9,000 stem cell plan, or you want to sell $4,500 neuropathy patients every single week, you have to have a strategy to where before they come in, there's something that interests them. You don't propose marriage before you have a first date. Okay. So, stories are your key. They'll carry message in them for information. So hopefully this has been at least a starting place for, learning and maybe framing some of my sales process. You can use this, adapt this, and we will go from there. Thanks, Jen.